Welcome. This is the Chapter 10 lecture that we're covering on leadership. Leadership. I know you're like, leadership in a management class? Yes, leadership in a management class. And you will see why shortly. So let's get going. So make sure that you have your textbook out and that you're taking some really good notes. You don't have to write verbatim, but anything that really stands out, anything that you see that I've highlighted, make sure that you take those notes because you will be tested on this information. And it's so much easier to study for a quiz or exam with your own notes versus trying to, flip through a textbook. So let's go over the agenda really quick. I'm going to share the difference between leadership and management. We're going to talk about how leaders are able to influence and empower their teams, various important leadership characteristics and behaviors, the different leadership styles, leadership role of both mentoring and coaching, and different approaches that can help you deal with adversity and crises, and skills that contribute to leadership. And then we're going to wrap up. All right? So, when you think of leadership, what does leadership mean to you? When you think of leadership, just really think of, and it may not be any specific qualities, but it may be a person. It may be an act, something that someone does. DuBrin defines leadership as the ability to inspire confidence and support amongst your team, amongst people who are needed to achieve organizational and other goals. So it could be community goals, it could be family goals, but it's your ability to inspire confidence and to provide the support needed so that people really feel like I can do this. And when times get tough, they'll continue pushing through. So is there a difference between management and leadership? Yes. You'll see that management is more formal and scientific. Leadership is really about having a vision for what the organization can become, where it can go. Management is going to rely on certain universal skills such as budgeting and controlling and planning, while leadership is going to require the cooperation and teamwork of the individuals within your group. Management's going to focus on continuous improvement of the status quo, of doing the same things that we've been doing, while leadership is going to really be a proponent for change. It's going to compel individuals and groups to be more innovative and to break through the status quo, to stop doing the same old, same old. You have to have great vision in order to be a great leader. So I love using little cartoon strips that I find. And I want you to tell me if this is leadership or management that this sheepdog is portraying. So I love doing voices. So he says, okay, wake up call at 8, breakfast at 8:30, then we hit the road. At 10, if everyone isn't too tired, we'll cross the 10-acre field. Did we get a bathroom break? My wool hurts. Can I sit this one out? If it's raining, I'm not going. Ugh, herding sheep just ain't what it used to be. So, is he serving as a leader or is he serving as a manager? Which one? If you said management, you're right. The sheepdog right in this picture, he is serving as a manager. He is not inspiring, encouraging, eliciting anything other than complaints. They haven't even left yet, and they're already complaining. They're already trying to find, issues. We're already trying to find ways to get out of it. You're already saying, if this happens, I'm not doing this, and they haven't even left. So he is definitely a manager in this. Now, here's where DuBrin and I have a little difference in how we see it. We're on the same wavelength, but we're just a little different. So it's not really him against me, but it looks good on the screen. But Gary Yuckel and Richard Lepsinger put that to be an effective leader, one must also be an effective manager, right? You have to still be able to um, to to manage and to plan and organize and to control in order to effectively lead. And DuBrin says, quote, managers must be leaders, but leaders must also be good managers. And so I say that not everyone who is a manager is a leader. And not all leaders are efficacious managers. So not everyone who has the title of a manager is a leader. I can just promote someone into a management position. It does not mean that they are a leader, and it does not mean they will successfully lead anything or anyone. And that's why I said that just because you're now, you've been given this title, that also doesn't mean that you're gonna thrive in it. And so that also means that as a leader, that you are not necessarily the get it done manager, right? So it can be one of those things that you have to be able to be a good manager first in order to really be a good leader. But they're not contingent. It's not going to necessarily be the truth. Not everyone who has that management position is actually a leader. So there you go. So basically, I follow along with Yuckel and Lepsinger. Now, Exhibit 10.1 is going to show you the links between management and leadership and how they're both applied to improve the productivity and morale within a group. If you guys have any questions, I want to make sure that you email me those questions. Please don't go through this entire week and you have questions about this, and then you see it come up on a quiz, and then you see it come up on an exam, and you still can't wrap your mind around it. If you ask, I can help you. I can answer those questions for you, all right? So here's another cartoon. This is a major project of utmost importance, but it has no budget, no guidelines, no support staff, and is due in 15 minutes. At last, here's your chance to really impress everyone. I love this cartoon because this is how a lot of people feel, right? You get this promotion or you get this, opportunity to shine, and there's no resources, there's no support, there's nothing. And yet you're supposed to produce something just phenomenal. And it's really not possible. Where am I going to pull it from? Am I going to pull it out of my ear? Where am I going to do? And that's how a lot of people feel. I have felt that way before. I'm sure some of you have as well. So what's the difference between power and authority? And I don't mean power as far as the Stars TV program, right? Power and authority. Do you know the difference? Give you a second. Power and authority. So power is your ability or the potential that you have to influence decisions and control resources. If you have the ability to influence someone else's decision making or the decisions they make for an organization or their home or the community or whatever, you have power. If you have the ability or the potential to control who gets what resources and when, you have power. If you don't have that ability or the potential, guess what you don't have? You don't have any power, right? So for the most part, in your home, your children have little to no power. They may have a little bit of power because somehow, some way they can get on your soft side and influence you to change your mind about something, right? They can change your mind about going to Six Flags or going to the library or going to get some ice cream. And they can then subtly control who gets access to the ice cream by telling on their sibling and saying, well, you know, so and so just broke your vase. Well, at that point, you know that that child is not getting ice cream. So that's a way your child can have a little bit of power within that family structure, within the business realm. It's not just people that have titles that have power, but if you have access to people that have power, you can find a way to influence their decisions, especially if you're friends with a person that has power. You can influence them to the point where they may open up doors of opportunity for you. They may extend certain allowances to you. So that is how you use your power within an organization. Authority is the formal right. Someone has to give you authority. You can't take it. It is a formal right to get people to do things, or the formal right to control resources. So it is granted to you. It is given to you. There are various types of power. We have legitimate, reward, coercive, expert, referent, and subordinate. Legitimate is you have the authentic right to make certain types of requests, right? Legitimately, you are a parent, so you have the authentic right to make requests of your children to do X, Y, and Z. It's a legitimate right. If you are the CEO of a company, you have a legitimate right. It's an authentic right to make certain requests. If you are the president of the United States, you have an authentic right. Reward is your ability to control rewards of value over other people. So it could be, like I said, the ice cream run or the day at Six Flags. It can also be the promotion or the bonus or the raise in the workplace. Coercive is how the ability to control punishments. So you can control the level and intensity of punishment at home, as well as in the workplace, right? So you can turn around and demote someone. You can make them stay late. You can give them extra workloads. You can give them, suspend them. You can fire them. You have that coercive control. Expert is the leader's knowledge. So this is usually your educators. These are your scientists, your researchers, things of that nature. So it's a sense of I'm an expert. I personally don't like using the term expert because it just means this huge, behemoth kind of wisdom. And I'm just like, ugh. But it, for the most part, that is what it's called. And then reverent is your control based on loyalty to please a person. So usually this is aligned with your pastors, your bishops, your priests, where there is people want to please you. The same is true within the workplace, though, as well, is that people are trying to make sure they maintain their loyalty to you so that they don't lose a close connection that could lead to greater rewards. And then, of course, subordinate power is the power that employees can exert upwards. It's your voice that can actually shift change from the bottom up because you realize how much you actually impact the company. And if you choose to strike, if you choose to find another way to protest your feelings and your views, it then can impact domino-wise straight up to the top. And so that is a form of power as well. So when you look at this image, what is this? Is this power? Is this authority? What is this? Is this just somebody who really has some really bad anger issues, or are they playing around too much because they have their foot on someone's head? So we have various influence tactics. We can lead by example, which I love, right? You're going to walk the walk. We can lead by values. And so based on our shared values, a collective understanding of how we see life, how we see people, how we see business, how we see the world, we can lead based on those values of respect and dignity and pride and love and so on and so forth, right? We can be assertive, and don't confuse assertive with aggression. Don't confuse it with abuse. It's assertive, meaning go to bed now, right? Not later. No, there's no negotiation. Go to bed now. I want the report on my desk at 5 p.m. sharp Friday. No extensions. I want this assignment in the Dropbox at 11:59 p.m. on Tuesday. No exceptions. That's assertiveness, right? You're being crystal clear. Rationality, ingratiation, exchange, coalition formation, joking and kidding. And you'll read more about these inside of the textbook. But joking and kidding is one way that a lot of people use. I use joking and kidding. Like one thing could be like, okay, you guys, can you spend less time on Instagram? You know, snapping away at your food. Can you please get off of Snapchat for 5 minutes and actually get some work done? Right? So you're joking and kidding. Everyone kind of laughs, and they go ahead and proceed with doing their work. And so there's different ways, but DuBrin explains it further in the textbook. Now, with our ingratiations, where you're able to get people to like you, and often you're using your political skills, like you kind of kiss up to someone. Hey, you know how you look so nice. Oh, that dress is so beautiful. You look really great in flowered kind of patterns, right before you ask for the rest of the day off. So, I was wondering, something kind of came up, and could I leave a little early today? Right? So you're kind of like massaging your way into a big ask, and that's what ingratiation is. So you'll read further about those, as I said, in the chapter. Now, when you think about the types of influence tactics a leader should choose, it really should go based on the demands of the circumstances. So when you're leading by values, it's best when the manager is placed higher in the organization. It's kind of difficult in a way to lead by values if you're the lowest person on the ladder, right? People are looking at you like, why we don't need to follow you, and who cares about your values? But really, when you're higher up within the organization, people have a tendency to look up to you. They admire you. You obviously have the skills and the strength and the courage in order to be in this role. And so if this person says that this is the values that he or she wants to see replicated and embedded within the organization, then people are more inclined to abide by that. Now, with rationality, this might really work best in a fast-paced team setting, such as a meeting to discuss product introduction, right? So that you're trying to hurry up and you're breaking it down. You're looking at the different variables, and you're going through to say, okay, this can work, this can't work. Let's get rid of this and move forward. Once again, if you have any questions, please email me. Now, with employee empowerment, people throw around this word so much, but they really don't understand. And for me, it's important. I also teach human resources management, which is Management 2115. And so if you haven't taken that class, consider taking it. I'm teaching it right now this semester with this class. And consider it, or consider it in future semesters. But Chapter 8 really places emphasis on empowerment as a way of how an organization can distribute authority throughout. So it's not concentrated solely at the top, but that it actually will flow through to all the levels and layers and cracks and crevices of an organization. And it's a way for leaders to be able to share power. So that's why it's called shared leadership. And that's where your employees, especially your frontline employees, get to experience a greater sense of personal effectiveness. They feel like they actually own their job. They have a sense of ownership within the company. It is also my company. It is not just the CEO's company, it's also my company. And so I then take pride in my work. I take pride in the company and what we do. I take pride in our relationships with our clients and customers and vendors. And the cornerstone belief to this is that leadership in teams can and should be shared, right? It should be. And it builds trust. And when you have your employee thinking and acting and leading as your partner in decision making, guess what happens? You actually can get more things done. Because now they're not just thinking of ideas and keeping it to themselves, they're actually coming forward with those ideas. And because you see them as a partner, because you see them as another leader within your organization, you're more receptive to their ideas and more receptive to implementing those ideas. And that you don't think that only things can, there's only innovation and idea creation and things of that nature can only come from the top. No, it comes from all throughout the body of the organization. And so you'll read inside of chapter 10 about the founder and CEO of Zynga, Mark Pincus, and how he leads his organization through this same vein. So we have self-leadership and empowerment, and self-leadership really does require for empowerment to work well. And it's the process of influencing yourself, right? It's self-leadership. And it comes down to this. If you can't manage and lead yourself, if you can't do what needs to be done, if you can't walk the walk, then how can you possibly hold anyone else accountable to do it? You can't possibly lead people. How? If you have difficult tasks and scenarios that pop up, if you have crises popping up left and right, and you freak out and run, what do you think everyone else is going to do? So Mant, Sims, and Nick, they came up with 3 core steps that that are really good. Is that you have to be able to set the example. You have to walk the walk. You have to set the example for the people that you're leading. You have to give encouragement and instruction, right? You can't just tell somebody, go and raise $100,000. No, right? You're having to be able to instruct them on how, and you're having to encourage them along the way, from step A to step Z. But you're encouraging them all the way through the process for all the small things they do, not just the big things, and rewarding them for those accomplishments, small and big. I don't care if it's a $5 gift card to Starbucks for whatever they did. Here, great job on securing this. Great job on finally getting us through the door at Corporation XYZ. We've been trying 3 months to get through, and because of you, we were doing it. Here is a $50 gift card for dinner at wherever. Then you have to also look at the cross-cultural factors and empowerment, looking at all the various cultures within and outside of your organization and how it impacts your team and how well everyone interacts with each other, and then how that all correlates with empowerment. So what are some characteristics and traits of effective leaders? If you think of effective leaders throughout history, in your family, in your community, in your workplace, think of some of the characteristics and traits that they exhibit. Now, here is a list of some of the characteristics and traits. I somewhat disagree with some of these, and I'll explain to you why. But I'm going to go through this. So DuBrin defines effective leaders as those who make a positive impact on the organization or group in terms of productivity and morale. And so, he lists drive and passion, this power motive, self-confidence combined with humility, trustworthiness and honesty, good intellectual ability, knowledge, and technical competence, a sense of humor, emotional intelligence, and leadership efficacy. And the reason why I say that I somewhat disagree is because an effective leader is simply a person who can effectively lead you to a goal, right? To reach objectives. So Hitler was a very, very, very effective leader. Very effective. He was able to rally up a bunch of people, to turn on another group of people, to execute and demoralize and dehumanize and to demonize hundreds and millions of people, right? But look at all the negative characteristics and traits that he had. I'm sure he possibly had a sense of humor. He did, I'm sure he probably did. But the thing is that, was he trustworthy and honest? Did he have humility? No, right? And then when you look at his emotional intelligence, so it's just those kind of things, is that when we use words are I'm very intentional with the words that I use. And to say effective leaders is that's kind of a skewed kind of thing. So this should be some of the characteristics and traits of great leaders, right? Of great leaders, of positive leaders, and not just effective. So you don't have to do this, but if you want to do it, just to kind of share, this is a really fun self-quiz on Exhibit 10.3 in your textbook. If you read and complete the quiz and then have a friend or family member take the quiz about you, so they're answering the questions about you, look at those results. And if you want, you can even email them to me by next week to share if you found that the results were so astonishing, or you just really impressed with the results. But it's not a requirement. So when you think of how do effective leaders behave, right? Effective leaders, how do they behave? Can this be an effective leader? Remember what I said about Hitler? He was very effective. So could this be an effective leader? So we look at some of the behaviors and skills, the ability to adapt to situations, to establish direction for and demanding high standards of performance from your team members. You are visible and you maintain a social presence within your organization and externally. You provide emotional support to your team. You can't just bail out and not provide that emotional support, because when times get tough, they need a leader to lean on. You have to be able to give frequent feedback, right? Because people cannot improve if you don't provide feedback. They're going to keep turning left if you don't tell them they need to turn right. And you have to be able to accept feedback. Great leaders can accept feedback. When you don't want to listen to your team members tell you that something that you did was not effective, or if it was wrong, or it just was stank, whatever. If you can't accept that feedback, then you're not a great leader. You're not a fully formed, wholesome leader. You're too self-absorbed. And great leaders have to take off some of those layers of self and realize that I am part of a team, no matter how much I want to, act as though somehow I walk on water. So being able to play the role of a servant leader, that you are here to serve your team, right? They're not here to serve you, because they can go and serve someone else. That's why employees quit, right? If they think that there's some part of dictatorship, they're out. People want to be part of a team. They don't want to feel like there's some kind of slave situation going on where you're whipping them. So being able to say, how can I help you in this role? How can I help you with this project? How can I help you with this report? How can I help you do better in your job. That is the role of a servant leader, is serving those team members. It's not some weak, cowardly kind of thing. And so when you think of some of the examples of servant leaders historically, you have Jesus, right? There's various organizations that are based on a servant leadership model. Southwest Airlines, Chick-fil-A, there's so many others that basically have a service feel, that they are placing the employee above self. They're self-empowered, and they are empowered. And that's the reason why their customers get such great service as well. So let's look at some of the leadership styles. Typical pattern of behavior is used to influence the team to achieve goals. And so you'll see that in chapter 1, we talked about theory X and theory Y. And that's Blanchard. And it can be interpreted as two contrasting leadership styles, right? There was one that really believed that the worker really wants to do a good job, and there's another theory that the worker is inherently lazy and you have to force them to do something. Then you have participative. You have an autocratic leader. And then Exhibit 10.4, you'll see the leadership grid, that breaks a lot of this down. And then you have an entrepreneurial leadership style, transformational, charismatic, and usually within transformational, usually they tie servant leadership into the transformational style versus having it as a separate category. Charismatic, those are usually your charmers. Those are usually the ones who, people just, they're attractive. They have a great personality, and people are just, their mouths are agape every time this person talks. Then you have your situational leadership 2, which is SL2, and you'll see that in Exhibit 10.5. So Blanchard came up with the situational leadership 2. And what he wanted to be able to do with his team was to find out how to match leadership styles to the capabilities of various team members based on a specific task. And so they created this to increase the frequency and quality of the conversations that team members are having with managers and amongst themselves about performance and about professional development between managers and the team, to help develop, a commitment to the job at hand, to the task at hand, a commitment to the company, to help develop competence, right? Because we have people that may be really nice, but they're just not competent in certain areas. And to also help reduce turnover. Because if you're really having these open conversations, these nurturing conversations, where you're really trying to find out what a person's capabilities are, where they're, how far stretched they can be, what they can really do, what their strengths are, then you'll focus your attentions on making sure that they're doing those things. And people will then feel like they're part of something good. They'll feel part of the family. They'll feel part of the team. And so what happens is your turnover is reduced because people stop calling out sick. People stop quitting the job. People stop putting themselves in the position of being fired, right, or being laid off. All of that can be reduced. So you'll see through the chart from D1 to D4 on page 367, and then you'll see the supporting and directing behaviors. Those are two independent behaviors that Blanchard outlines. And then on pages 367 to 368, you'll see S1 to S4. So that's all the supporting behaviors. So D1 to D4 is all the directing, and S1 to S4 are all the supporting behaviors. So you already know what I'm going to say. If you have any questions about what I just covered, email me. So we have this phenomenon going on now where everyone is a business coach or a life coach or some kind of mentor. And it's usually on the exterior of an organization. But how many of you have come with, you started working in a company, or a company decided to um, implement a new system of mentoring or coaching to help employees. There are some companies that when you sign on, when you become an employee, they literally assign or ask for volunteers to serve as your mentor for a specific period of time or throughout the life of your career at that company. They may also have various coaches assigned to you. And so the mentor is a person who's experienced in a certain area. And they help develop the protege, you, right? They take you under their wing and they help develop your abilities through tutoring and guidance and coaching and emotional support. So when you're having those meltdowns at work, they're there to be that shoulder to say, you can do this. We've all been there. It's fine. Just woosah, push through. Let me show you how to reduce your workload. Let me show you how to delegate. Let me show you how to handle these scenarios, right? That's what a mentor does. And they're literally like your basketball coach, your football coach, your track coach, your cheer coach, helping kind of motivate and push and inspire you through, showing you, taking the time to go step by step, so that your training period is not just the first 2 weeks or the first 30 days or the first 60 days or the first 90 days, but it is a continual tutoring and guiding and coaching and training experience. And that's where you can also rely upon shadowing, where you're able to directly observe work activities by following your mentor. And you're going to follow them for a period of time. It could be 30 days, it could be 90 days, it could be 6 months, where they're going to say you follow and you literally watch every single thing they do, everything they say. You take detailed notes because this person is the best that we have in this department or in this state or in this country or whatever. You follow them and you model them and you will succeed. And that's the shadowing, right? And the mentor usually becomes better at managing because they served as a mentor, because you are more hands-on in a mentor role than most people are when they're just promoted to manager, right? You just so happen to, your manager saw that you were helping one of your team members, with a project, and you were so patient with them, and all of a sudden you get promoted to team leader. Well, team leader means you're a manager. Why? Because now you're over another person. You're responsible for another person. Another person reports to you. But just because I help somebody on a project doesn't mean I'm actually a good manager or a good leader. Right? It just meant that I was just being gracious. Right? But if you are really showing mentoring capabilities, if someone actually said, hey, we would really like for you to mentor Sarah and Jamal, or you just stepped up to the plate and said, I would like to be able to kind of take them under my wing and show them the ropes. You are literally better suited to be promoted into a management position because of the role you serve as a mentor and coach. So we all have times of crisis and adversity in our personal lives, and guess what? In the workplace. And so there's times within business where there could be a downturns in business, and you can have a sudden surge in the workload where the workload just goes so high and it's coming in so fast that it can be overwhelming. You could say, I have too much on my plate. It could be that there's fire damage because someone didn't turn off a valve or someone accidentally shorted something. There could be a hurricane that comes and just destroys part of the buildings or knocks out some of the equipment. It could be a tornado and all of a sudden one of your buildings is totally destroyed. There could be workplace violence. Someone comes, into the workplace and starts, doing some jiu-jitsu and taekwondo and some all kinds of stuff bust out like It Man 3 inside of the workplace. There could be a massive product recall because somehow, uh, there were fingernail clippings in, some oatmeal. I don't know. But there's so many different scenarios that could take place within the workplace. And the best leaders are the ones who can adapt to that situation. They are not totally blown away by what's going on and they just throw their hands up and say, I can't do it. It's the ability to say, okay, we're faced with this hurricane scenario, or we're faced with this, we're faced with, Tina, she's coming in thinking she's Bruce Leroy. So what are we going to do? I'm not going to run from this. I'm not going to break down crying. We're going to handle this. We're going to get through this and we'll breathe after. So consider some other examples of how a person can lead during adversity and crisis. So you have to be able to make tough decisions quickly. If you are slow to make decisions, if you're one that contemplates and you do analysis paralysis, oh, well, it could be this or it could be that, and you're not going to do well. No one wants to follow you if you can't make a quick decision. We need it now. We need it now. There's snakes coming through the vents. We don't have time for you to make this. Come on, which way are we going to do? What we're going to do? What we're going to do? What we're going to do? So you have to make tough decisions quickly. You have to serve as a model by being resilient. You have to be like, Teflon. You have to be like bulletproof mentally, and just be able to handle things. And when people see that in you, guess what? They'll replicate that. You have to create a plan for how you're going to deal with and how your team will deal with a crisis, with adversity. Lay it out. This is what the game plan is. This is how we're going to execute. Here's plan A. If plan A doesn't go right, this is what we're going to do for plan B. You have to have an appearance of confidence and trustworthiness. People have to be able to feel like, okay, she knows what she's talking about, and I trust her. So if there's a dark alley, I believe that she's going to get us to the other side. And you have to always have a focus on the future. You can't be harboring on the past, and you can't have your head so deep in the sand of the present, because you need to be able to think forward. Where are we going? Where do we want to go? Remember, we talked about mission and vision. Your vision is where you want to go. And so you have to be able to be focused on the future. Your goal is to be a $50 billion company in 20 years. Well, you can't be that if you're focused on what you did 20 years ago, right? So you have to have a focus on the future. You have to communicate widely about a problem. A problem cannot just be communicated in an isolated area within the company. It cannot just be contained at the top of the company. Only the C-suite leaders should not just be the ones privy to the fact that the company is hemorrhaging, right? If it all of a sudden is losing money and you don't know what's going to happen and you don't know if you're going to be in business in 6 months, that is not something that you keep at the top. That is something that needs to be communicated throughout the company, and you have to find a way to do so intelligently, confidently, and it displays your trustworthiness so that your employees do not freak out and think they're going to lose their job tomorrow, right? But you have to be able to communicate widely about problems. So there has to be a sense of transparency. And you have to change to meet changing circumstances. You cannot stay rigid and stay the same, and the circumstances around you, the environment around you is constantly changing, and you want to stay straight and everything else is turning to polka dots. No, no, no. You have to be willing and able to change. Growth only comes from change. You cannot still be doing things the way we did in 1985. It's not possible. It's not going to happen that way. We have all this technology. So sorry, either change with the times or lose business to your competitors who have done the changing. And that also means that you cannot have a ecosystem, an environment, a culture within your company that is based on the 1980s, the 1970s, the 1960s. So no, you can't walk around calling women girls and chicks. And no, you can't pop them on the rear end like you could get away doing in the 1940s and 50s. Can't do it. You can't, there's certain things that you can't dialect in different um, phrases and terminology that you used to be able to say just all casually um, back in the 1960s and 1950s in the South that you can't say now, not without a lawsuit. So you have to change to meet changing circumstances. You have to stick with constructive core values. What are your core values within your organization? Those are those values that you need to stick with. They have to be constructive, not destructive. That they're uplifting, that they keep the team together, that they keep that organization whole and complete. That's what you stick with. And when you have major problems, you can't go at the major problems all head on. You have to break them down into smaller chunks. That's like trying to eat a whole cake. I made a big triple layer chocolate cake with just layers of chocolate all in it with chocolate chips. You're not going to just shove your face in the cake. No, you're going to cut the cake up in individual slices, and you're going to take one slice and eat that slice. Then you're going to go back and eat another slice. And hopefully you don't eat more than 3 in one sitting, right? But you have to break it up into smaller pieces. It's easier to process it. It's easier to then look at the other sides and to look through it and around it and contemplate how we can solve this problem when you break it into smaller chunks. And you have to always, 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 always lead with compassion. When you lead with fear, when you lead with hostility, when you lead with this I'm the boss, people flee. They are busy filling out resumes and applications to get out of your job because you are cold-hearted. So you have to always lead with compassion. Even when someone blunders and they make the biggest mistake, you have to grab their hand and pick them up and say, it's okay. We all make mistakes. We've all fallen on our face. I've done it time and time again. If only you knew. That makes that person see you as a human. That lets them know that you're not cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, right? And that it's not the end of the world. It's leading with compassion. It's treating people the way you truly would want to be treated, even when you don't like yourself. That is how you need to lead. And especially when you're dealing with moments of adversity and crisis. When your company is suffering financially or suffering because of a public relations disaster, or, like I said, Tina or somebody came up in there and they thought they were Bruce Leroy and started karate chopping folks upside their head. You have to be able to lead these 10 specific ways. So in chapter 1, you got to see the leadership roles and you got to see the 5 general skills for managers. Be sure to review those because they're very helpful. Chapter 16 talks about some coaching skills, so you can be able to look at that. We will, of course, be covering chapter 16 soon, but if you wanted to kind of skim and see the different coaching skills, just so you can get a feel for how you can actually take these in as part of your daily walk now. Whether you have an official, management role within your company or not, but you can start displaying these skills and these traits and characteristics now. So here's some other skills that you can look at. Being able to quickly size up situations. Can you look at a scenario and say, this is assessing what it is. This is what it is. This is how we can resolve it. Being able to exert your influence. Motivating a team. Being able to motivate diverse cultures and nations. And you have people from conflicting countries that are now, emerged in the same room. how you're able to motivate them to work together for a common goal. Resolving conflict can be very difficult. Solving problems creatively, right? Because you can solve a problem, but there's no creativity involved, and everybody's miserable. But if you can creatively find a way to solve a problem, developing a mission statement, all right? If you can create your own personal mission statement for yourself, then you can then see, wow, how those mission statements for the companies where you work. Do you even know the mission statement for the company where you currently work, or for previous companies where you have worked in the past? If you don't, you need to find those out. You need to ask the manager, what is our mission statement? If you don't find it on the company website, you need to ask why, because it should be all over the place. But you need to have your own personal mission statement as well. And like I said, leading a group through adversity. So, skill building exercise 10B covers what style of leader are you. This is something fun, and I tell people to try this out, because oftentimes you don't even realize the style of leader that you are. You assume that you know, you think you're a charismatic leader, and actually, you're an aristocratic leader, or you really just don't know. So just consider doing that. It is not mandatory, but please consider doing that. Questions? Email me. So this week's assignment, make sure that you have your coursework in, all coursework, discussions, everything. All coursework has to be done 11:59 p.m. Tuesday. No questions, right? Thank you guys so very much. Have a wonderful day. Please email me if you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions about this presentation. Thank you.